Another sports history lesson for the uneducated, i.e. me. Roger Clemens, for those who don't know, is apparently one of the most dominant pitchers in MLB history, being an 11-time All-Star and 2-time World Series winner in a career spanning well over 2 decades. Just a quick side point, is it really a World Series if only USA and Canada actually play in it? He became the first man to take out 20 batters in one 9-inning game, earning him the nickname Lord of the K's from Sports Illustrated. The initial feel you get with MVP Baseball is that thought had been given to try and make a title that stood out from the hordes of other baseball games out there. It's certainly only one for the hardcores. Batting is very finicky and fielding is incredibly difficult. There's no easing you in with any sort of difficulty curve, and the AI is basically an expert at everything. When fielding, you press A to try to catch above you, and B with a direction to attempt a diving catch. Good luck either way. The perspective, coupled with the super speed, makes this an absolute ball ache to get right. As with everything else, it looks great, and there were clearly intentions there, but the execution is too pro-level for the average player. There's no assistance whatsoever from the CPU when trying to catch a ball. Usually, if a shot is in the range of the pitcher, or those on the bases, the computer will help you to make a catch a little bit. Not so here, you have to do it all yourself. Credit needs to be given for the graphics, to a certain extent. The animation is very rich, and the sense of depth is effective. This isn't one of those where the fielders are all the same size regardless of their positioning. It can be a little juddery when the different cameras are engaged. There's one for the close-range field, but then it'll switch to a different shot when you go further out, rather than being just a smooth transition. There is certainly effort that needs to be applauded, however, because when taken in isolation, everything does look great. Unfortunately, the way the viewpoints operate works to the game's disadvantage. Now, I don't know a great deal about filmmaking or TV production, anyone who's watched any of my videos will know that, but I am aware of the 180 degrees rule, whereby in any given scene you simply do not turn the shooting direction around by 180 degrees because it's too jarring and disorienting for the viewer. That is a bit of an issue here. When you pitch, the camera doesn't show the action from the pitcher's perspective, but remains behind the batter, looking outwards from the home plate. That's a perfectly fine choice. There are plenty of games that do that. Just choose a perspective and stick to it. Here, once the ball has been struck, the visuals are now shot from the completely opposite direction, the outfield looking towards home plate off in the distance. This makes figuring out which base to throw to really confusing. When you pitch, first base is to the right of the screen, you start to control a fielder, and now first base is to the left. I can appreciate the quality of the actual images, and that they didn't simply settle for a top-down, bird's-eye view of the field, but if you instinctively expect to be able to throw to first base by pressing right, but then everything is switched round and you need to press left instead, it's just a little too much to figure out in a pressure situation. It makes deciding on a score for the graphics here quite the quandary for Roger Clemens MVP Baseball. On the one hand, everything looks great, way better than your average Game Boy Baseball title. On the other, it so terribly hampers the gameplay that you can't help but feel it might have been more prudent to be a bit more cautious. One thing that there is no ambiguity about is the sound quality. I don't know why the audio was so forcefully rent into left and right channels. The music is incredibly jarring to listen to if you're wearing headphones, as half the song, which isn't the best anyway, is played through the left earphone and the other half through the right. A minor quibble, I suppose. How often is music important in sports games? Games of this sport have almost universally tripped me up on Game Boy, as it similarly is with fighting, football, soccer, and basketball games. Sport seems to be such a challenging genre to code for on a handheld 8-bit system. It's hard to put your finger on why, as they don't all fail in the same way. Sometimes they're too basic, other times far too complex. Sometimes the pace is way too sluggish and the controls unresponsive. Other times everything happens too quickly for you to react to. So rarely does a sports game hit that sweet spot on Game Boy. They're always one extreme or the other. Maybe there's just no pleasing me. Maybe, and here's a thought, stop making me play sports games, eh? Chance would be a fine thing.